Hi, everybody. It's your old pal Chuck. And today I am bringing you a figure that I'm kind of surprised I've never reviewed sooner. Because it's a very cool character. This is from the G.I. Joe Pursuit of Cobra line, Shadow Tracker. One of the things I like about G.I. Joe, and something they've been able to do really since day one, is introduce new characters outside of like the core four or the core six that are known to the general population and have them mean something. And I really think Shadow Tracker is one of those figures. Now, right off the bat, let me get this out of the way. As some of you know, um, some of the Pursuit of Cobra figures were homages to various movie franchises and lines, and one of them was Predator. We've already looked at the track Spirit, who was 100% Billy from Predator. This figure is actually based somewhat on the Predator itself. One of the things that's a nice little touch that a lot of people don't realize is the actor who actually played the Predator was African American, and thus Shadow Tracker himself is African American, or I should say, of an African descent. So I think that's like maybe not intentional, but I think it's a very nice touch. Um, and it's what's great about the character is, as some of you know, the comics and such had a little fun. This may or may not be the Range Viper Commander Skullbuster, and it's a more primitive state. I know that there was one of the comics basically did Skullbuster up looking like the Shadow Tracker. It is what it is, but uh, one of the things that really freaks me out about this figure, and I think it was intentional by Hasbro, is it doesn't come with like rifles or anything. It's very traditional, unconventional, edged weapons. He does have a bow and arrow, but really the bow and arrow I think is just there. The main focus are all the various edged weapons. I mean, right here you can see this multi-tool cleaver thing that I don't know how I would use it. It just looks like it can hurt. And then here it has this very long bladed spear. Now, one of the nice things from Pursuit of Cobra was the fact that they did introduce a modular system with the weapons. It wasn't really advertised, but in the case of Shadow Tracker, there's a hole here in the spear that you can peg some of the weapons into. I have this three-flanged mace type of deal. The longer bladed knife here on the leg could be pegged in there, but that I don't do because it's not longer than the spear tip, so it just blends in, but you can store it there. Coming around on the back, there is actually a sheath um, with a smaller shiv put in there, which actually, we'll look at the figure in closer detail. One of the hands actually that's designed for the bow and arrow, you can actually hold that knife and have some fun with it. There is also another peg down here that I assume is to store another one of the pegged weapons, which really is just the flange and the knife, but because it doesn't go straight into the figure, um, I'm not sure how well it would work. I do like the green and black, almost like digital camouflage going on, and it just, ooh, this guy just like creeps me out. And what was interesting is that it was part of a cross sell with Skydive, who we'll probably take a look at some point. Like, this guy is hunting Skydive. If I was Skydive, I'd just like, hang myself or something if I saw this guy coming. Be a lot less painful. But let's take a closer look at the figure. Starting off, I want to take a look at the head, because the head is really where a lot of the personality of the character is. Like I said, it is based on the Predator, so you have the dreadlocks here, but you also have a little bit of detail in the face. The face is kind of hidden. Now, what's interesting is that mask can be removed, and there's basically just a skull underneath. I wouldn't recommend it. I'm not going to do it because it is glued on, and once it's removed, it can't really be placed back on. But that's led to some fans hypothesizing that perhaps basing off coming from the rise of Cobra, um, Shadow Tracker was wounded or injured and then injected with nanolights, that it formed that green mask, because that neon green is the symbol of the nanolights. Uh, does have for now the head is on a ball joint, but let me just tell you, you're only going to be able to get side to side movement, and if you want really any more movement, you have to turn the whole body, the whole waist, which is, you even though with this vest on, you can get access to it. I think that's really cool because it adds like something to the personality of it being a hunter, that the whole body moves in this like creepy sort of way. There are universal joints in the shoulders, single jointed elbows, 90-degree bend. The wrists do feature the enhanced articulation, so besides rotation, this wrist can go up and down, whereas this wrist, which is really the bow and arrow, can rotate in and out. Ball jointed hips, you do have an ab crunch, but again, you're really only going to be able to get rotation out of it. Uh, Double jointed knees and just standard uh, ankle articulation, no pivot. Which, to be honest with you, as time has gone on, I kind of prefer just that standard ankle articulation, because once you add in the pivot, you need to add in like a swivel at the boot so the ankle can rotate flat for crouching poses. With the pivot, it really doesn't look right. Like, it looks more like the ankle's broken. Um, like I mentioned, there is the hole here in the back of the vest and the sheath. As you just might have noticed, the knife does fall out. I mean, it's in there, but if you knock into it, it'll move it. Now, behind this mop of hair, and let's see if I can show it off, there is a hole for a backpack, obviously for the bow and arrow to peg into. I really don't know how you're going to use that, because all this section of the dreadlocks are all molded together, and I'm kind of hesitant of stressing the plastic. I mean, it is soft, but it's it still can be stressed. But that's about it for the figure. We've gone through the movements and articulation. Like I said, this is a black figure, which for a Cobra, it's very rare to have like an African-based, African American black uh, character. So this is interesting in that regard. And like I said, the connection to Predator, it's like a layers and layers of homage. So let's look at the other accessories. Okay, starting us off right off the bat is this great little net that is actually mentioned on the bio card. I think it does have some feature where you can close it up like that. There's a drawstring, but there's also like a little weight. And it's like a capture net of sorts. It just creeps me out. I'm mixed with. There's been other Cobras that have come with nets, but this is the only one that really creeps me out. And then going in here, you have again this really cool looking knife. Now, at first, I could have sworn that these were like this and this knife were created for Shadow Tracker, but seeing as how Shadow Tracker really is like a lot of shared tooling, this might have come with a Zartan figure from Rise of Cobra. That and the other, I mean, because this is sort of like the kind of weird edge weapons he would use. That machete's been around for a while, we all know it. And then the bow and arrow, and were came with Spirit, but I think were originally designed for Shadow Tracker. It was just that Spirit came out first, so they gave it to him. And like I mentioned, he does have that molded finger. I guess I should bring him in and show. He does have that molded finger grip, that can hold the arrows a little bit better than Spirit. But like I mentioned, the peg on the back is very hard to get to actually peg the quiver of arrows in. Shadow Tracker is just one of those characters that you're either going to love or you're going to hate. Um, it's so unique and polarizing that I can understand why some people may not be that into it. You know, the limited head articulation, the limited torso articulation, but all of that I think fits into the character. What's interesting is that since Pursuit of Cobra, we haven't seen like another version of this figure. Sword. The Collectors Club, which I think was for FSS 2.0, did a Skullbuster where they actually used the arms from Shadow Tracker. Unfortunately, Shadow Tracker is a larger figure, and the arms ended up being a little too long for the torso they used. And because of especially this hand being molded to hold an arrow, it made it difficult to hold any of the other weapons Skull Buster came with. But they did, in the bio and stuff, sort of allude to some of the intricacies of the Shadow Tracker character, so maybe that they are connected or related somehow. Who knows? Um, but definitely, I only saw this guy on shelves once, but I have heard that it did eventually show up in more plentiful amounts. So if you're looking on the aftermarket, I could say you could probably pick this guy up for about $15. I really haven't checked prices, but it shouldn't. I mean, unfortunately, I wouldn't pay much of a markup just because it's such a niche character. But I really dig it. This is your old pal Chuck for Shadow Tracker. We'll see you next time.